Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neal, and I'm joined by legendary Scream Queen Brinke Stevens. It's very good to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to see you.
Yeah, happy to see you as well. It's really exciting. Now, director. I should not just Scream Queen, now director. Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama Part 2.
Yes.
Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama. It's a very long title, but a very fun title.
I am so proud of that. You know, I was in the original movie back in '87, and years ago, before COVID, I think it was 2019, Charlie Band called me up and he said, I'm going to do a sequel to Sorority Babes. And I'm thinking, why are you telling me I died in the first movie? And he's like, well, I'd like you to direct it. And I'm just so impressed that Full Moon is really into promoting women, female directors. They're very active in that. So I was really happy to direct it. It was my first feature film, although I had done short films before. And one of them, Terror Toons 4, Personal Demons, is going to be out soon, finally. So I loved being a director. After over 200 movies as an actor, I really felt like I knew what I was doing. So.
Who would you say some of the directors that you worked with, like that would be either influential or someone that you learned from, working with them as an actor?
Well, my earliest directors sort of imprinted me on what it was like. Like Dave Dakota was really good with the actors. And Fred Olen Ray was really good with the camera and the technical side of things. So when I went into this project, Sorority Babes 2, I knew that I would have gaps in my knowledge. And sure enough, at one point, the cameraman turns to me and says, so for this next scene, do you want to use a 60 or an 85? And I'm like, well, let's go with the one that you think works best. Imposter syndrome. Right. But I did find I was really good working with the actors. And I think that they all loved me because I was kind to them. And some of them, it was their very first movie. And you have to go, okay, the point is to not look directly in the camera lens, right. Things like that. And I mostly just loved working with the kids. It was a small cast of like 8 teenagers. Some were a little out of their teens, but it was just a great group of people, some wonderful actors. Yeah.
That's kind of an obvious one, I guess, but being an actor yourself, I assume helps you, work with actors as a director, since you know where they're coming from.
Yes, absolutely. And, a lot of it is you hope they know their lines, which all of these people did. They were so good with that. And then the blocking. And when you've got 8 people in one scene, it's really hard to figure out the blocking. Mm-hmm. And then you're dealing with the lighting, where the lights are going to go. Oh, I see the light in that shot. The camera, there's just so many elements. You really have to have a skill set. And there was never a moment when I wasn't doing something. You also have to be highly organized. There was a lot of paperwork, like going over the script and figuring out what we'd shot, what inserts we needed, things like that.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Charles Band and Full Moon Madness is really, using a lot of women directors and stuff. When did that start to change, do you think? Because, you've been in the business a long time, so I'm sure you've seen, how things have progressed over the course of time.
Yeah, well, I just kind of got back into it. I did a lot of Full Moon stuff in the 80s, mm-hmm. And like Slave Girls from Beyond Infinity and Sorority Babes and Nightmare Sisters and things like that. And much like Roger Corman, Charlie Band gave a lot of opportunities to people. And so it was just really fun to get together with that group and to still be a part of it. I'm astounded at the longevity of this company. It started out Empire Pictures, now it's Full Moon Features, but it's still going strong. They've got the streaming. We had some people come out from Los Angeles to do some live streaming while we were shooting. And Charlie Band has just built this amazing empire, and I'm just so in awe of him. And I'm really glad that he's hip with the times and that he wants to include more women directors and writers and so on.
Yeah. Yeah, his book came out recently, his autobiography, which is really interesting read, and you get to see the ups and downs. There was a lot of him building up, and then things would fall. But like you said, staying hip with the times and also the changes of everything, because it's the rise of VHS and then DVD and now streaming. And how about that for you? How has that affected you as an actor and a director, the rise of streaming?
Well, I miss having DVDs on my shelves.
Right. I mean, VHS over here.
Yeah, eventually, I guess a lot of the streaming stuff does come out on DVD, but there's so many channels. There's so much to watch. The amount of content that's available now, and you just can't keep up with it. So I'd rather just have a DVD. Like today, I'm going to go to my mailbox and I'll have a DVD from Netflix because I just
you still get the actual DVDs from Netflix.
I do. I'm old school. I just love DVDs because you can pause them and look at the special features and do all of that. But yeah, the streaming thing, it has helped filmmakers to get their products seen because it provides a platform where you can make a little bit of money and get your products out there. So I think it's been a really good thing. But yeah, when I first got in, movies were theatrical. You could only see them in a theater. And then it was VHS, and then it was DVDs, and laser discs were in there somewhere. Right. And now it's mostly streaming. Yeah. So it's just so interesting that technology has evolved in such a short time.
It's not always possible, but for me, the best way to see a movie is on the big screen when you can do it. I go to multiple movies every week, but I know I'm not, most people don't anymore, but I still like to see a movie on the big screen.
Well, COVID really changed a lot of things. And we were going to do Sorority Babes in 2019, but we had to wait for 3 years while the whole world sat at home. And then, the whole theater experience changed. People weren't going to theaters. Streaming became much more popular. So that had an effect on our culture and on how we watch entertainment.
So our writer, Ken Rudabesh, hope I say his name right. Right? Had you worked with him before?
No, I don't think so. That was a pseudonym. Was that what you
okay. I see.
I may have met him under a different name, but
I see he has a lot of credits. So yeah,
okay. Well, that's good. That's good. It was a good script. I think the very first script I read was kind of a shot-for-shot remake. And I'm like, why does Charlie want to bother to remake this? And he said, well, it'll introduce a whole new generation to Sorority Babes, which was truly a cult classic. It's a wonderful little movie. The girls in it, the guys, the imp, it was just fabulous. And so I was a little bit leery about tampering with perfection, but I really think that we got the feel for the 80s. It takes place like 30 years after the first one, but it acknowledges what happened previously, that there was a mishap at the bowling alley and some girls died and so on. So there's similar elements, but it's not an exact remake. It is definitely a sequel.
Yeah. And I think, it was recently probably in the last couple of years, on Joe Bob, and I think that also introduces it to a new audience, the original Sorority Babes.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad. And another movie I made, Slumber Party Massacre, was celebrating its 40th anniversary this year. And that too is a cult classic, where I went to a screening with Deborah DeLiso, one of the other stars in the film, and half the audience were kids, young people. They weren't even born when this movie was made. So I appreciate the fact that people are able to go back in the past and watch old movies. And because in my mind, 80s horror was really special, much like 80s music. Everything about the 80s was something. So I'm glad that people are still having an 80s kind of revival. And I have to say that Billy Butler, my producer, who has played many roles as an actor, and he's directed and produced and done special effects, but he did so much on this movie. He is a genius. He was kind of in charge of all the set decoration, the look of the film, the wardrobe. He's put together the lookbook for clothes and stuff. And Billy is just amazing. So I was so happy to have his help and support on this.
And what kind of movies do you like personally? Do you like horror movies and comedy movies? Or?
Yeah, I do. Like the one I'm getting today on Netflix is The Black Phone.
Oh, good. I was a big fan of it. Yeah.
Thank you. I try to see everything that comes out. I do like horror movies, but I watch a lot of things. Like with books, I read romantic, comedies. I like historical fiction, different things. So I like foreign films. I have a real broad taste when it comes to being entertained.
Right. Yeah. Well, it might not seem it, with the background here, but I like all different movies too. I just grew up enjoying movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And I like some of the older films from the 40s and stuff, like Laura and, different things like that. There's some wonderful movies back then.
When did you decide you wanted to pursue acting?
Well, I never decided it. It reached out and grabbed me.
You're still wrestling with it.
Yeah. I was a scientist. I had gotten a master's degree in marine biology, and I was working for a nuclear power plant at San Onofre in San Diego as an environmental consultant. And my college sweetheart, Dave Stevens, said, let's get married. So I left San Diego and moved to Los Angeles. And I figured I would get a science job in LA, not realizing that there was no science here. But I had done some modeling in college. I had a portfolio with photographs. And one day I had made an appointment with a modeling agency, and they weren't there. They forgot about the appointment and they had left for the day. So I'm trudging down the hallway with my portfolio, and there was an open door. And I looked in, and the walls are all covered with movie posters. And I didn't notice there was a guy sitting behind a desk. And he said, hey, you, come here. And I said, no, I'm in the wrong place. He says, no, show me your portfolio. So he looked through my pictures and he said, you want to be in a movie tomorrow? And I'm like, yeah, sure, okay. Which was all the marbles. I was an extra. And so I did a lot of extra work in movies while I was still looking for a science job. And eventually I did Slumber Party Massacre in 82, at like 2 years after I'd arrived in LA. Yeah. And I thought, I'm actually not bad. So I continued in acting and kind of forgot all about science at that point.
Yeah.
I always say that my career chose me. I didn't choose it.
Well, what did your family think at that time? You're a scientist, and then you end up being in Slumber Party Massacre.
Oh, they were horrified. I left school with a master's degree, and I was in the PhD program. So for a long time, my parents pretended that I was still in graduate school. We were friends. And, when I would show them my movies, I would have to cut out the nudity. Right. Which all the 80s movies had nudity, and they hated to see me die. So I would have to cut out the blood and the death scenes. And one time my mother said, aren't your movies kind of short at 36 minutes? And I'm like, well, Mom, that's the trend now. They're all short.
I love that story. So the Imp is back in Sorority Babes, which I'm a big fan of the Imp. And another thing from Charles Band, he's always really good with merchandise. So I know maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but do you think we'll see the Imp, maybe toys or shirts or anything?
I'd love it if we could. The original puppet from 1987 had already crumbled to dust.
Right.
So Greg Leitner, who's an absolutely brilliant special effects makeup artist, he was on Face Off, and he recreated the Imp just from photographs. It was amazing. It looks exactly like the original. And they had a dummy model for our eye line when we're shooting, but he did a fully articulated thing where the eyes move and the mouth and all of that. So it was quite brilliant. It looks just like it. And, Uncle Impy, I think that it would be great as a toy. Look on any shelf.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'll have to make a space for the Imp here when it comes out.
They had just finished shooting the Baby Oopsie series. I went back to Cleveland because Full Moon Manor is this amazing mansion from 1930 that Charlie had bought. And they shot all of Baby Oopsie and a few other things in this mansion. So the house was so well established that they had to put up false walls to hide staircases and things.
Right.
But it was really fun shooting there. And then I had seen some of Baby Oopsie on the streaming, and boy, those dolls were scary. I think Greg did all of those too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Charles Band movies, a lot of them have he likes small monsters. I think there's something scary about them to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and dolls are always scary, creepy dolls and things.
Mm-hmm.
If you go in any like Halloween haunted house, there's always creepy dolls.
Yeah, I think for me, because I always grew up with action figures and stuff, so they did always kind of not necessarily scare me, but did freak me out a little bit if a movie was about a killer toy that came to life, because I could relate to having them, I guess.
And was it the people under the stairs or something? These little creatures. I remember there was a movie where she looks under the table and there's this little creature under the dining table.
Well, I know like Trilogy of Terror has the Tiki doll.
Right.
That's a good one. There's a lot of them now I think about it, but
yeah, that Trilogy of Terror.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh man, at the age that I saw it, it was like, ah! And I did a movie with Fred Olen Ray called Haunting Fear. Karen Black was in it. Oh. So the end of the movie, I'm stabbing a butcher knife into the floor, and it was an homage to Karen Black in that movie, because kind of at the end she'd been sort of possessed by the doll.
I love that. You mentioned like some of the fans of a sorority when you saw it again, or a movie recently, and there was a lot of kids. What do you think it is about horror movies in particular that appeal to new generations? Because there's a lot of movies I grew up with that aren't horror, and they kind of just get forgotten. But horror movies seem to like always find a new audience.
Well, when we were doing movies in the 80s, horror films, we were told that our target audience was college-age males. Mm-hmm. And that was why we had to, show our breasts and do shower scenes and things like that. And then the monster carries away the beautiful girl. That's kind of an archetype thing. I guess just kids love to be entertained, and horror movies are, the quintessential roller coaster ride where you get scared and you laugh. And I especially like the horror comedies in the 80s, like Sorority Babes, and Slumber Party Massacre has a lot of humor in it.
Yeah.
Where they're eating cold pizza off the dead pizza delivery guy, things like that. So
I think both those comedy and horror are the most fun to watch with other people, because you can react to them. You can laugh, or you can, get scared together. Where if you're watching a drama together, you don't just want to cry together. That's kind of a weird thing to do.
I think you're right that if you get the right audience, like in a theater, and to see a horror movie, that collective energy, the fright, the gasp, things like that, it's much more effective, you said, than watching it by yourself in your living room.
Right. Yeah. And then when you have the comedy elements, it's kind of the same thing, either shock, gasp, or you laugh together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do have to be careful when I'm watching a movie alone by myself at home, because then I get really creeped out, and I'm like opening the closet door to make sure and looking under the bed.
Kelli Maroney's in Sorority Babes, one of my favorites, multiple time guest on the show. Had you worked a lot with her before, Kelli Maroney?
No, not really. We're kind of peers. Yeah. Before I met her and knew her, I watched Night of the Comet in the theater, and I thought, that girl is brilliant. She was so adorable. And then later we were in the same circles. We both worked with Jim Wynorski. We do appear together in Scream Queen Hot Tub Party, which was a joint collection between a collaboration between Fred Olen Ray and Jim Wynorski. And, I see her around. We do conventions and things like that. I saw her last October in Ottumwa, Iowa at a Halloween-a-Palooza. And she's a lovely girl. So we weren't able to get Linnea Quigley. I don't know if you know, but Linnea broke her knee. Did you hear about that?
I actually was just talking to her earlier today about an interview, and she told me about, I didn't know the whole story, but she'd mentioned about being laid up for a while, and I didn't know the details.
It happened before we did our film, and she had a hard time walking and stuff like that, so it would have been very, very difficult for her to do the role. But there were cameos in Sorority Babes too. Me and Michelle, because we had died in the first movie, so they shot us against green screen at the Full Moon offices in Hollywood. And then Kelli flew back to Cleveland and worked with us. She was there for the whole week. And she plays Linnea Quigley's sister.
Oh, okay.
Linnea's character was Spider, and she plays Snake.
I love it.
Yeah. And she had the attitude, and all that. So we added a line where someone says, so where's Spider? And Kelly's character says, that license plate on your car? She probably made that, implying that Spider had gone on to a life of crime.
Right.
But Kelly was great, and she was just perfect for the part. She really stepped up and had a lot of trouble getting to Cleveland. It was Labor Day weekend, and a number of flights were canceled. She missed her first flight. Her plane was late. She missed the second flight. It was just a nightmare for her. I think she spent the night in the airport. And then when they picked her up, they dropped her bags off at the Airbnb and brought her to set. And she had to work after that. But she was such a trooper and a really excellent actress. I asked her if she'd taken, classes from big name professionals. And she said no. And I was really surprised because she, one of the things I liked about her acting was she allows a lot of space when she says the lines. She doesn't just blurt them out. She takes time with it. Mm-hmm. And her face, her emotions really show on her face. And it's a thing of beauty to watch. You can see what she's thinking by the way her face changes. And I just loved working with her. And she said, I want you to direct the hell out of me. But she didn't need any directing. Yeah. She came in perfect.
Yeah, I like her a lot, and she has a likability about her. As soon as you see her in a movie, you're drawn to that character, and she's very likable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah. Even though she was playing a kind of a tough character,
right.
Spider's sister, she's just adorable. She's just small and cute and blonde.
Right. Yeah. And I don't want to get ahead of the movie, but since Spider's still around, just in jail, maybe she can get out for part 3.
Yes, I sincerely hope so. And I was really glad that they did put cameos in for the girls. We talked about cameos for the guys that were in it, Hal Havens and John Wildman, and Andras Jones, but there just wasn't any place to fit them in. Mm-hmm. It's a very simple story. Half of it takes place in the sorority house, and the other half takes place in a deserted bowling alley. So there just wasn't any opportunity to bring in anybody else. Mm-hmm. But Michelle and I as ghosts, partly it's like we've been cooped up in the trophy along with the imp. So when it's released again, we come out and we're like, here we go again. But we do help them. We're useful as ghosts, where we kind of help them to figure out how to thwart this evil demon imp.
Yeah. That's very fun. Was that fun to reprise your role as Taffy?
Oh, I loved it. And it was really interesting to be on set and to know that in a week after Cleveland, I would be doing a green screen. So we do these lockdown plates, like at the bowling alley, where Michelle and I will materialize. So we had to get our eye lines, and I was taking extensive notes to show Michelle and photographs. And I'd say, okay, so the kids are straight in front of us. The imp is down there. He's about 3 feet off the ground, and we're looking at nothing, so it was really important to have all that.
Mm-hmm. That's very cool. But how about, you said the younger cast was also, you enjoyed directing them and giving them, advice. And so who are some of the standouts? I know I don't want to pick out, one person, obviously, like is your favorite, but who are some of the standouts in the movie for the younger actors?
Glory Rodriguez
mm-hmm.
plays the kind of bad girl role, and she was quite wonderful. We had an actress named Audrey who lives in Los Angeles, and she was great. Hannah, who was in another full moon movie. The boys were equally good. And one of the things I loved about being a director was I could add some stuff of my own to the script. And it was the same plot where the boys are spying on the girls. And in the script, they're hiding behind some bushes. But we didn't have any bushes. There's nothing around the house except trees. So I added scenes where they're sneaking across the lawn and they're hiding behind trees and peeking out, and things like that. And it was really fun. And the guys got it immediately. this was the joy of working with the young people, because they took direction and they just got it right away. They knew exactly what to do. And I just had to say, I liked what you did more in the first take than in the second take. Let's do that again. Mm-hmm. Or I could say, that was great. Give me something different. And they would. So it was quite the pleasure working with young people, because I was just blown away at how inventive they were.
Yeah. You mentioned that so part of it's filmed in Charles Band's manor, the castle, and the bowling alley. Does he own a bowling alley too, or did you have to find a bowling alley to film?
We had to find a bowling alley, and that was harder than you would think, because that week, the week after Labor Day, there was a bowling tournament in town, and every bowling alley was booked solid. So we were lucky to find one that was closed. They were going to have a few days that they were having the bowling tournament there, but it was mostly a bar that happened to have bowling. It only had 8 lanes, so it won't match the one in the original movie. But we were so thankful that this guy was closed down for like remodeling or something. Yeah. And we were able to shoot there daytimes, because my greatest dread was that we would have to go all night like we did on the first movie. We had to wait until 9 o'clock at night when the bowling alley in San Diego closed, and we'd shoot till 9 in the morning. And that's fine when you're 20 years old, but nobody wants to work all night at our age. So I was very lucky that was available. And, you get so much production value, all the neon signs and the bowling balls and things like that.
Yeah. To recreate that, you'd either need a ton of money, or it just would, if it's all there. And plus, if you're actually using a bowling alley, it feels real, like it feels lived in or used.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we did a montage that wasn't really in the script, but Billy Butler suggested it, and it turned out great. It was just the kids having fun bowling, and so they're dancing around and they're pretending to drink beer and they're bowling in wacky ways. And there was also, Billy had the idea for the opening credits to do a kind of aerobics workout, like the 80s videos.
Right.
And I choreographed it because I had been an aerobics teacher. So we choreographed a little bit of a routine. The girls picked it up right away. And we did it in the living room of the sorority house at Full Moon Manor. And it's just got such a fun, colorful vibe to it. Beautiful girls, cute boys, an 80s throwback kind of feel to it. And I'm really excited. I think it's going to be very special. And
I'm really looking forward to it. And like you said, it's a movie that people love, and to see a sequel for it, decades later, that's very fun and exciting.
Mm-hmm. Everybody went back and watched the original movie from '87, and some of them more than once, because they wanted to really study it.
Yeah.
And it was at that point that I realized that the entire cast and crew had seen their director naked in the movie, but I tried to ignore that. And one thing I realized in looking at the first movie, Dave Dakota was like 24 years old, I think it was, when he directed it. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing what he accomplished. He flips a car. He lights a guy on fire. And on a low-budget movie that we shot in a very short time from a young director, he was amazing. Mm-hmm. So, and I thought maybe Dave would be there and kind of hold my hand, but he said, "No, I'm too busy. You can do it. I have faith in you."
Yeah. Did you get to light anyone on fire in part 2? Or?
No, I don't think anybody got burned up.
Well, that's good, I assume, but yeah.
Yeah, no car flipping either.
Maybe part 3 you can flip a car.
Yeah, well, and even though it was considered low budget in the 80s,
sure.
I think we shot on film and on location, and budgets were actually bigger back then. Mm-hmm. By several times.
Yeah, low budget then is different than the low budget movie today.
It was, yeah. So we had really 6 days of principal photography, and then there was another day of insert shots and a day of green screen and all of that. But 6 days, in my mind, wasn't really long enough. Mm-hmm. I just wish that we'd had a little more time on it, because you end up working very long hours. Like, I don't think we ever worked less than 12 hours. Mm-hmm. And the last day was 16 hours. And it's just really hard at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
That people would have to nudge me and I go, oh, action, because I'm spacing out.
Right. So is directing something you'd like to continue doing?
I would, and I hope that Full Moon and the audiences are happy with this movie, because I would like to direct more films for Full Moon. So we'll see. You know, the test will be in how it looks and if they think I did a good job.
Yeah. So it'll be coming to Full Moon streaming, which I believe is on their Amazon channel, and Tubi, which is a Tubi's a great streaming channel too for a lot of independent filmmakers.
Yes, I believe that I heard November 22nd.
Oh, cool.
It might stream, which is amazing that they could edit it that quickly.
Yeah.
But that's the way things are these days. And then hopefully it'll come out on DVD. I can own a copy.
Exactly. Yeah, right.
And I know there's a female-oriented film festival in Los Angeles. Nice. And they would like to show it at a theater on the big screen.
Oh, that'd be good.
Have me do a Q&A as the director. So I'm hoping that the timing works out and that it meshes with the film festival.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And by the way, I do want to say to Linnea out there, she's watching. We hope she feels better. Hope her knee's doing better.
Definitely. She was missed, you know, and there will be flashbacks in the movie. Kelli Maroney character tells another sorority girl about what happened. And so there's going to be flashbacks. So Linnea will be in the movie, but just in flashback.
All right. Very cool. And I know we're here to talk about Sorority Babes, but I'm also excited to see Toons 4 coming.
Oh, I am too. It was 10 years in the making. Joe Castro gave me my first opportunity to direct on that. And it's a 36-minute short called Personal Demons, which I also wrote and I star in. And the entire 36 minutes was shot against a green screen. So everything kind of looks like a collage. It looks very weird because everything was added to the background. And I'm excited about it. It looks so different than anything else.
Yeah, no, I like Joe a lot. I like the Toons movies. My friend Trista Robinson's in it, co-host here on the show. She can't be here today, but so everyone involved I like. So it can't go wrong, I think.
Joe is very talented. He does these amazing special effects, and he's a great producer and director. So. Yeah,
and you could tell anytime you talk to him, he's very passionate about what he does. He loves monsters and making, weird effects, and he really loves doing it. And I think that comes through in everything he makes.
Yes, his enthusiasm. Well, he's always wanted to do it. I've known him since he was 16 years old.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's cool.
He won a contest for Monsterland magazine. And he was flown to Los Angeles to meet Evola. I was the mascot for the magazine. And he said, as soon as I graduate, I want to come to LA and be a special effects artist. And he did. And so we worked on some of my early movies, like I think Teenage Exorcist. He worked on that and a number of films for Fred Olen Ray when he had just arrived in LA. So he's really made a career for himself.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll be seeing Joe. I'll be out now. I'm flying to LA Friday, and I'll see him next week sometime.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. I'm leaving Thursday for the Twisted Dreams Film Festival in Milwaukee.
Oh, very cool.
Avalon Theater.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful theater, and it's a lot of local Wisconsin filmmakers. They have a shorts block and on Saturday. So I'm a guest star, and Lloyd Kaufman will be there as well.
Oh, nice. Another person I'm a big fan. Yeah, very cool. And I always tell people, some people think if you're not in LA or maybe New York, there's not like a film community, but like you said, there's a film festival in Milwaukee. I think, anybody out there, wherever you are, there's some type of community and film festivals. And I always think the local ones, there's a real community feel for the festivals that I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad that they're donating a lot of time to showing local Wisconsin movies. And they were free to be entered into the festival, anyone who was a Wisconsin filmmaker. So that's really supportive. I love that they're doing that.
Yeah, that's great. So Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama Part 2.
Indeed.
We're thinking November, and I was going to say, how can you find that? But if you Google that, I don't think you're going to find anything else except for Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama. So it's going to be easy to look up.
Yeah, good. Well, I hope everybody watches it and loves it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I always like talking to you.
Well, thank
very
you.
friendly.
Likewise. I've been on your show how many times?
I think this is either 3 or 4.
Yes, I
So
agree.
you're part of like groups a couple times, I think.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate
Happy
it.
Halloween, too.
Yes, happy Halloween to you as well. Enjoy Milwaukee.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.